Whoopi Goldberg is in some hot water for some comments she made on The View. A lot of people have said a lot of things about it. When I heard it, I thought to myself, is this a problem of some kind of evil intent in her heart, or is the bigger problem the long-term effects of indoctrination? Now, I'm going to read this article and I'm going to explain to you why I think this is the long-term effects of indoctrination, and I'm going to read some definitions and explain exactly what I mean. So I'm going to get to an article. This article is on the Hollywood Reporter, and it kind of goes over this situation that happened with Whoopi Goldberg. So Whoopi Goldberg apologizes and seemingly doubles down on Holocaust comments. Now, this is pretty crazy. This was on, I guess it was on Stephen Colbert. So it says, I don't want to fake apologize. You can't call this racism, talking about the Holocaust, Goldberg said on the late show with Stephen Colbert. I think of race as being something that I can see, right? So that when I heard her say that, I kind of hyper focused on that, like, yo, I'm not going to jump down her throat because I think her comments are based on, like I said, the long-term effects of brainwashing. I'll get to that. How can you say it's about race when you're fighting each other? Whoopi Goldberg continued to receive criticism and provoked debate Tuesday after an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where she elaborated and some say doubled down on her take on the Holocaust and Jewish identity. The uproar began Monday when The View host and moderator discussed a Tennessee school district voting to pull Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize-winning graphic novel Mouse, which is about the Holocaust, due to inappropriate language and nudity. Now, there's a bunch of uproar made about this book being removed, and I kind of understand it. You can go over certain things in a school setting without nudity and profanity. I understand these things happen. We can't necessarily shield our kids from the world, but I understand a parent not necessarily wanting this material covered in this fashion in school. It's not that they don't want the material covered. It's just that the fashion in which it's covered. Like, yo, we not sure we comfortable with the nudity and the profanity. We understand what happened during the Holocaust. We have no problem with you teaching that, but maybe this book, not so much. Let's be truthful about it, because Holocaust isn't about race, Goldberg said on The View. It's not about race. It's not about race. It's about man's inhumanity to man. Now, that is true. It is about man's inhumanity to man. Her view on race, to me, is indicative of the long-term effects of brainwashing, and I'm going to get into that. Co-host Anna Navarro pointed out, but it's about white supremacists going after Jews. But these are two white groups of people, Goldberg said. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. Jews, black or white, Jews, it's each other. Goldberg's comments drew immediate backlash from some viewers as well as from some Jewish leaders. Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt tweeted, "No, at Whoopi Goldberg, the Holocaust was about the Nazis' systematic annihilation of the Jewish people, who they deemed to be an inferior race." That's true. This is from Adolf Hitler's own comments. He viewed Jewish people as an inferior race, which that shows a little bit of the problem in Whoopi Goldberg's view. But again, this video is not necessarily to come down and attack Whoopi Goldberg, because, as I said, I think She's the victim of brainwashing. Uh, they dehumanize them and use this racist propaganda to justify slaughtering 6 million Jews. Holocaust distortion is dangerous enough. The official Auschwitz Memorial Twitter account messaged Goldberg with an online course about the Holocaust. The U.S. Holocaust Museum, in what seemed to be a Goldberg subtweet, wrote, "Racism was central to Nazi ideology." Very true. Jews were not defined by religion, but by race. Very true. Nazi racist beliefs fueled genocide and mass murder. Again, statements that are true. American Jewish Committee CEO David Harris tweeted, "Whoopi Goldberg absurdly claims that the Holocaust isn't about race. Nazi Germany considered all Jews a subhuman race. That's why they wanted to exterminate the entire Jewish people, including my family, and almost succeeded. Please rethink and apologize." An Israeli writer, Hen Masig, tweeted, "Being Jewish means watching white nationalists call for your death because you're not white. While ladies on national TV say the Holocaust was white people killing white people, y'all go fight amongst yourselves." Late Monday, Goldberg tweeted a formal apology for her comments, saying, "I'm sorry for the hurt that I have caused." She also reiterated, "The Jewish people around the world have always had my support, and that will never waver." So I think what this is indicative of is brainwashing. And I'm going to explain to you why. I'm going to read the Modern Dictionary's definition of race, and I'm going to compare that with what the definition of race was back then, right? So, and this is why I always advocate, if you have not done this, I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was you. I have a physical copy of the Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary for several reasons. One, I read the King James Bible. That's the Bible I personally prefer. They use a lot of Old English words and terms that are not used in this day and age anymore. And also, if I were to look up some of these same words in a modern dictionary, the meanings are not the same. So I could read the Bible, go get a modern definition and go, wait a minute, how does this make sense? And then I go grab a Noah Webster's 1828 and it's like, oh, so the definition of this word changed. Part of that is just due to the natural course of things and languages, they change and they mature. That happens. Part of it, especially with words like this, is an effort in brainwashing, in my opinion. So here's the Modern Dictionary. This is from dictionary.com, the Modern Dictionary's definition of race. And I want you to notice the path that it goes down as you go down into the definition. A group of persons related by common descent or heredity, a population so related. In anthropology, no longer in technical use any of the traditional divisions of humankind, the commonest being the Caucasian, the Mongoloid, and Negro, characterized by supposedly distinctive and universal physical characteristics. An arbitrary classification of modern humans, sometimes especially formally based on any of a combination of various physical characteristics as skin color, facial form, or eye shape, and now frequently based on such genetic markers as blood groups, a socially constructed category of identification based on physical characteristics, ancestry, historical affiliation, or shared culture, a human population partially isolated reproductively from other populations whose members share a greater degree of physical and genetic similarity with one another than other humans, a group of tribes, peoples forming an ethnic lineage. And it gives an example, the Slavic race. any people united by common history, language, culture, traits, etc. So you see, one of the things that you find in here is and to dictionary.com's credit, they do add in this definition an arbitrary classification of modern humans, sometimes formally based on any or a combination of various physical characteristics, and one of those being skin color. So we've been taught over a span of many years that race has everything to do with skin color. This we've been taught this in school. We've been taught this in textbooks. We've seen this in movies, and just about any amount of literature you grab, this is what you find. So it's no surprise to me that Whoopi Goldberg views race in this way. When she looks at a German and she looks at a Jewish person, all she sees is the color of their skin. That's what she sees. So this is not an attack on her, because I don't think she meant this maliciously. This is literally what she believes. Now, howbeit wrong, this is what she believes. It wasn't a malicious comment. It wasn't meant that way. But this shows a greater problem, and is more indicative of indoctrination. Now, have you noticed in the definition of race, you find in the modern dictionary, you find a lot of language that actually was centered around and comes from a more Darwinistic view: Caucasian, Mongoloid, Negro. These are words that you normally find used when people have a heavy Darwinist lean toward what they believe. So the definition wasn't just a matter of just defining a word, right? It was a matter of defining a word and adding your bent to that definition. It's not supposed to be that way. Words are supposed to be just defined. This word means this. Cup means cup, right? It's not supposed to be a word with your bent of belief added to the definition. So now I'm going to go to the Noah Webster's 1828. And let me also say, that doesn't mean that doesn't happen with definitions and hasn't happened throughout time, because it has. It shouldn't be that way, but it has. But I think Whoopi Goldberg's view is more indicative of indoctrination. So now let's look at the Noah Webster's 1828, right? 1828. So this is what people would think about race at this time. Okay, race: the lineage or family or continued series of descendants from a parent who is called the stock. A race: the series of descendants indefinitely. Thus, all mankind are called the race of Adam. The Israelites are the race of Abraham and Jacob. Thus, we speak of race of kings, the race of Clovis or Charlemagne, a race of nobles, etc. Hence, the long race of Alban fathers come. A generation, a family of descendants, a race of youthful, unhandled colts, a particular breed as a race of mules, a race of horses, a race of sheep. Of such a race, no matter who is king. A root, a race, ginger in the root or non-polarized, pulverized, a particular strength or taste of wine, a kind of tartness. Okay, so now it's kind of getting into other definitions that don't have to do with our subject at hand. But we see this is what now, in any of that definition, did you see anything about the color of a person's skin? Understand that at this time, at this point, even now, if you've never traveled to the Middle East, it will actually blow your mind, right? I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and it'll blow your mind how you can see an Arab person that has blonde hair, gray eyes, green eyes. Then you'll see a darker Arab person that'll be more along my skin complexion with brown eyes and a different kind of hair, and they're all Arab. They're all the same race. See, it's not about color, and it was never about color. at some point, when it was, what happened, somebody said before, I can't remember who it was, that said National Geographic was actually the first to define race by color. I don't know if that's true. I haven't been able to find anything on that. But needless to say, at some point, race was defined by color, but it wasn't that way. This is not how people saw race. So Germans literally saw Jewish people as a different race. If you were to go back 150 years, you could be from, one person could be from Uganda and one person could be from Nigeria. Two separate races. It doesn't matter that their skin was the same complexion. That was irrelevant. This idea of defining race by the color of your skin is a fairly modern idea. You can go back 100, 120 years, which is actually not that far back, and it wasn't defined this way. So I submit that Whoopi Goldberg is a product of brainwashing people. Now, I could have all kind of theories of why this happened, why a race was separated in this way. Needless to say, I'm not mad at Whoopi Goldberg. She didn't know. I'm not saying that you could argue what she said was insensitive one way or another. But when you look at what she thinks about race and what race is, according to if I were to go by the modern definition of race, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with what Whoopi Goldberg said. You see the problem here? So if you were to go before a panel and you to read the modern dictionary, right, the definition of race, and then go back and revisit Whoopi Goldberg's comments, it'd be like, yo, what she said according to the definition isn't wrong. But when you go back to what the word actually means, it has nothing to do with skin color. At some point, we were all bamboozled. At some point, we were all bamboozled into thinking that race had everything to do with skin color. Now, does that mean that certain races of people can't typically be darker complexion? Yeah, obviously, that could happen. Italians are more olive skin tone, more than not. But there are paler skinned Italians. It happens. So this has nothing to do with skin color. But she's been brainwashed. This is why, look, I'm all about words. Words matter to me. I've always been that way. I give special care and attention to the meaning of words when I'm reading a book. When somebody's saying something, if I hear a word I've never heard before, I'm going back like, yo, okay, well, what does this mean exactly? Because I've never heard this. And I think this is the problem that Whoopi Goldberg had, is she is a product of brainwashing. There is a heavy bent of Darwinism that has swept through academia for years unchecked and under the radar. And it's brainwashed people into thinking certain things. And if you have a view based on the knowledge that you have or what you've been taught, I can't be mad at you because you really didn't know. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, this is the predicament and the situation that Whoopi Goldberg finds herself in.